Well, good evening. It's quite late. Well, 10:30 California time, so everyone's asleep. I won't upload this till tomorrow, but I wanted to talk about a few of the what I call big lies. And I typed it out, so forgive me for looking down every so often. I think there's enough of these that I could do like a full video, but I'm going to try and keep it short. John Milton is not the first to come up with this, and I believe the devil himself did. This quote is, "It is better to reign in hell than to serve in heaven." And this is the big lie, that there will be anything but torture in hell, and that anyone would be excluded from or somehow over that torture. I mean, it's ridiculous. My son was reading Colossians tonight, and one of the verses completely fit with this. Colossians 2:8, "Beware lest anyone cheat you through philosophy and empty deceit, according to the tradition of men, according to the basic principles of the world, and not according to Christ." I believe all deception follows this original lie, that we know better and that we can somehow sidestep absolute truth with a capital T, I like to call it. The very first lie, of course, being in the Garden of Eden, when Eve was told she would not surely die, that her eyes would be opened and she would be like God if she, ate of the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil. Lies are, sprinkled and dusted with a dusting of the truth, which makes them easier to swallow. She did not die immediately, but she died spiritually at that moment, and then also physically once she grew old. Her eyes were opened, yes, but she was then separated from God until he came to redeem her himself through his son. So we've named the biggest, most earth-shattering lies, but there are smaller ones, really a lot smaller and harder to detect, I would think, like gestures presented as caring and generous when they're really self-serving and dangerous. You can probably think of a time when you were encouraged to make a choice and believed it was your own good decision, when it would be much more beneficial to the person urging you in that direction. You always have to consider what people's motives are for asking you to do something that they claim is good for you. You want to do this, don't you? And the one I've got in mind is the big corporate reaction to the reversal of Roe v. Wade. Of the very few states who are already tightening the laws now that they're permitted to do so again, there are companies sending out these well-crafted notices to their employees that they will pay for transportation across state lines and perhaps even pay for the procedure itself. I mean, it sounds super generous and caring, right? But a pregnant employee is a major headache. It sounds to me like helping an employee to get an abortion is cheaper than paying for family leave and training a replacement, when the added stress of not knowing whether that replacement's going to turn out to be permanent, because there is a percentage of women who decide to stay at home following their maternity leave if they can make ends meet, even if they had originally intended to return. And I'm sure by now you have seen some of the horrible quotes by Margaret Sanger, the founder of Planned Parenthood. This company wants you to believe you're making the best decision of your life when you walk through their doors, but will not give you the same information as a crisis pregnancy center will, for example, to see and hear the baby growing inside of you. They attempt to withhold as much as they can to make it easier on you to make the decision the other way. So Margaret Sanger says, and this is super hurtful. So anyway, it says, we do not want the word to go out that we want to exterminate the Negro population. And you cannot get, in my opinion, any more racist than that. And yet Planned Parenthoods are found mostly in what are deemed underserved communities, which often are minority communities as well, as though it's a service for the good of those in that community, where it's health care. You know, she spoke of defending the unborn against their own disabilities. Really, how, pray tell, is killing the unborn the same thing as defending them? I mean, complete switcheroo of reality. I mean, I just, she also said, the most merciful thing a family does to one of its infant members is to kill it. This is what I'm talking about with the big lie. Words like mercy and heroism and planning, phrases like emerging from ignorance, assuming her responsibility, and weeding out the unfit. Those phrases, you know, responsibility and mercy, they call on our sense of self-righteousness, and they lead us to believe that by choosing to end a life, or any number of decisions, I mean, this is just one example, but you've been there, I'm sure, where someone's trying to get you to decide something. Lead us to believe that by choosing to end a life, we have made the right choice for ourselves. Never mind the benefit of those who were pointing us in that direction. It's a lot to think about. And I had a coworker once who was really happy when she got pregnant, because she and her husband had been trying for a while. She was probably halfway through or just before. I mean, she was definitely pregnant, like, clearly. And we were so happy talking about it and everything. So at some point she had called in for a sub for her shift in order to have a procedure. I have to have a procedure, she said. And like, my face just dropped. Like, for some reason, have a procedure made me feel like maybe she was having an abortion. I don't know what led me to believe that, except that she had had tests done earlier, and it turned out that she had decided to end the pregnancy because one of the tests brought back something that scared her. You know, never mind that these tests can be faulty, never mind that children born with all kinds of issues are the absolute light in their families' worlds. I mean, there are countless folks who will talk about the relationship they have with their children, even as disabled as they are, and just the choice that was made to honor the life that God gave them to carry. Anyway, this test happened to show the sickle cell abnormality, which is mostly an African American hereditary thing. It's a lifelong blood illness that causes a great amount of pain. So, of course, that's a huge consideration. She was probably it probably killed her inside that this child would be in pain his whole life. Treatments, etc., are aimed at relieving symptoms, avoiding pain, and preventing complications. The only cure is stem cell or bone marrow transplant, so it's not done very often. Anyway, I believe this sickle cell thing is one way doctors, and it's going to make it sound like, oh, doctors are racist, but there are some, if they are, who would take this opportunity to encourage their African American patients to make a poor choice. These doctors, the racist doctors, in my opinion, are like an open infection. I was picturing like oozing with advice like, this child will likely not live past X number of weeks, or this child will live a very long and difficult life. It's really heartbreaking, and my coworker suffered some of the worst depression following that experience. And like the pleasure of working there together just left her face. You know, she would make comments like, I'm always scheduled for the deep cleaning days. I wonder why. Like, you know, it's got to be because I'm African American and they haven't even trained me on such and so. But we had both worked alongside another just like her that was trained on such and so, and it was a seniority thing where, yeah, when you first start working there, you were scheduled for every single deep cleaning day. It's just how it is. But there were no racist issues at work. I mean, zero. But she believed that she was being treated poorly because of that. And I believe anytime someone can get you to believe that you are downtrodden and that they have the answer for you, like, this is what you ought to do, and it's for you to rise above, and to, you need to take advantage of this program and this service because you're an underserved community, blah, blah, blah. Once you are believing of that and trying to scratch and claw your way out of your downtroddenness, you've already lost. I believe you've already been given in to the big lie. Anyway, I'm way over the time I wanted to spend on this, but thank you for listening. It's not easy to talk about, and I would love to read, any comments that you have or experiences that you have on these things. It's what brought me to do the video at first was that I saw, he was a Satanist actually, holding that sign up that said, oh, it's way better to rule in hell than to serve in heaven. And I just sunk. I thought, oh man, there's probably tons of people who are like, yeah. It's like, oh, but you have no idea the torture and the separation and the alone. There's nothing to rule over. And not even Satan himself. There's no ruling over anything it's complete fire and, death, destruction. There's nothing. There's no partying going on. Anyway, that's it. Go do something happy now. Bye.